Hey, yo! Yes, it's season 1, episode 12. Yeah, we're calling this show The Toast. That's it, just The Toast. I think it's quite fitting. But this week, anyway, we've got Jonesy with us and we've got Graham. So it's the old Celt cast again. And it's obviously the post-game show and Victory Monday, guys. So the Cowboys coming away with a big win. 31-21 to the Cowboys away as well in FedEx Field. But they've now gone 2 games in a row, winning, both of them divisional rivals. So we're looking tip-top. And just to put icing on the cake this week, the Eagles lost.
Oh, banging. and also featuring Lucky Ball. There he is, there's Wilson.
Lucky Ball. And we did put a post up as well this week about the Lucky Flag as well, which has now gone into omen status because it has yet to witness a loss at AT&T Stadium. But we're going to look ahead what the Cowboys did right, what they did wrong, basically answer a few of your questions. Just to do a quick injury update from the game. 2 players injured. Antoine Wood with what looks like has been announced as an MCL sprain. So we'll see where that goes. We haven't got an update, but you can pretty much expect to see that one shut down. And then we've got Michael Gallup, who's going through surgery, who's looking to go out between 2 and 4 weeks. We'll get back to that as we look ahead at the games. And in the pre-game show, I'm sure Lauren will speak about it there. But in terms of this game, guys, we'll go with you first, Jonesy. We're going to look at the offense. What, in your opinion, did the Cowboys do right?
Basically showed Josh Norman that he's an overpaid clown and he needs to shut his fucking mouth. Just he needs to worry about himself, really. People will eventually learn not to talk crap before a game to Dak. But that'll, as long as they keep doubting him, that's fine. Because he tends to torch him every time he does. Just Dak's command of everything, really. He just bossed out again, didn't he? He spread it around even more. You found Devin Smith, obviously. That was a banger. Obviously, he burnt Norman. Witten burnt Norman. Smith burnt Norman. Everyone burnt Norman. There was a bloody fire in Tennessee that was less burnt than Norman. It's ridiculous. But it was just really good to see. Everything it was nice. It was spread out again. It was fairly even in terms of run and pass. Slightly more run, actually, even though it looks generally this year more pass heavy. Just really good to see all year round. This, I mean, it's obviously it's only the second game in, but the offense has definitely got some sort of killer instinct this year. They're going for it. They're gunning for it. And when they find their flow, it took them a little while in the first quarter, but as soon as they found it and they were clicking, they were just rolling. And there was no holding them back.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. Graham, what have you got in terms of a positive on the offense? What was it? I mean, it could be absolutely anything. Player, coaching, play, the style, position. What was it for you?
I just wonder if there was an adjustment made towards the end of the first, maybe the start of the second quarter, because to go from zip to 14 points to lead at the half, there must have been some kind of change. Either Dak just found another level to exploit or to stay away from somebody in particular, or if Zeke finally got going, it just seemed to click all of a sudden. You'd be forgiven for having a little bit of worry during the first quarter, and then they took the lead, and you're thinking, oh, here we go again, it's the Cowboys. So to go in at the half, 14 points up, it kind of settled us down a little bit, and you eventually, the cream eventually rises to the top, and another absolute clinic from Dak, just fantastic form at the moment, and long may it continue. But again, you've got to give great credit to Kellen Moore. I mean, he's in charge now, and I just hope there was an adjustment on his part for his sake. If he stepped in and said, right, guys, we're going to do things slightly differently, and all of a sudden we're 14-7 at the half and everything looks all rosy again. So, yeah, hopefully it was an adjustment maybe by Kellen Moore, because that will do that'll do his confidence no harm at all.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, in terms as well of certain players, I mean, we know Dak. played out of his skin again. I mean, he was like just close to 87% completion rate, which is like off the charts. But one thing I was particularly looking at that I've noticed has gone up a level from week one was the O-line. So you've got Zach Martin, who seems to be flowing a bit better. You know, those injury concerns. Tyron Smith is looking like he's a bit smoother. And obviously the big one, Travis Frederick, seems to be well settled in, like as if he hasn't skipped a beat. I mean, what are your opinions on the O-line at the moment?
Yeah, he's starting to get back into it now. Is T-Bid. He's flowed quite well. He seems to be picking things up quite easily. He didn't look particularly slow like before. He's looked a step slow, just sort of getting used to things, especially at the start of the season in training camp and everything else. He doesn't look like that now. He looks like him. I mean, there were plenty of times where Zeke and Pollard were just stepping into the second level, and it was like before. It was just part of the Red Sea. He's back. He's up there. He's near enough 100% as far as I'm concerned, at least from that game. And again, I know it's not one of the best defenses in the league, but it's a team that went toe-to-toe with the Eagles. We got a very good roster and a very deep roster last week. So credit where credit is due. I think that's a half-decent team, and it's the divisional game as well. So you can never really... You've got to expect people to play up. Yeah, if they played crap the past couple of weeks, you can tell they're going to turn up when they play you because it's a divisional match. So
yeah, that's it. I mean, divisional matches, you just got to throw everything out the window. But I mean, even the playbook. But Gray, what do you think in terms of the O-line, Zeke? I mean, what are you thinking?
There was one particular highlight jumps to mind. They had the camera behind Dak, hands the ball to Zeke, and you could just see the line crush to the left.
Yeah.
Travis Frederick taking, you probably know what I'm talking about, the line crashing to the left, and you're just thinking, Zeke has got an absolute, you're maybe talking about 5 or 6 yards worth of space to play with. That's before he's touched.
I'm pretty sure Frederick took 2 guys with him on that play.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was almost as if I've missed so much football, and it's great to be back type idea, which is amazing. And it also means that when you've got such strength and you can create such a nice pocket, it allowed Dak to just take off. If nothing's open, I'm not going to force anything in here. I'm going to run for 10, 15 yards, slide, and we'll just start the thing all over again. There's just so many dimensions to this offense. It's that effectively churns out 31 points.
It's true. No, but okay. So I mean, in terms of, we may as well go there. If you were to take a negative from the offense, what would it be? Just one negative where they could improve, if you like.
Try not to take so long getting going. Really, I mean that's pretty much it. Once they got going, like we said, they were rolling. He completed near enough all his passes, like you said. His completion percentage, that's an average, but near enough. Like it was like the Giants game. He had like only a handful of misses. Obviously, he had wrap up the one interception. That was a bit of bad luck, really.
Bad throw
coupled with a bit of bad luck. I mean, it's going to happen. He was due an interception against the Redskins anyway, really. As soon as I heard that morning on NFL Game Day morning, said, he's never thrown an interception against the Skins. I was like, fuck's sake, why would you say that? And then look what happened. But it is what it is. But just try not to take a quarter to get into it is the only thing. I mean,
I wonder if maybe perhaps taking that first quarter taking so long, perhaps that nerves being in an away stadium, being on the road.
Maybe it's also the case of, like you said, a lot of was it like the first however many, like 12 or so bloody plays they say in a game is all set, pre-designed stuff until then, and then everyone settles in and gets into flow, and then you start getting adaptation. And obviously that would have happened before had there not been an interception. So maybe it's a bit harsh to say it took a quarter, but I mean, But what the encouraging thing is that even with losing a quarter, it would have only taken a half a game to put that away, realistically. They
went 20 unanswered points.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the next 5 of his drives, and the thing that pissed me off is they scored a field goal, and at the end, they ran out of time to score another touchdown, because I was 1 touchdown away from predicting that scoreline perfectly. But I was, it didn't happen. But it is what it is. And Brett Maher made all his kicks.
Yeah, he hasn't
Again.
missed a kick off the regular season yet.
Touchwood.
We're back in Knox. But what do you, Greg? Where could they improve?
If you're trying to criticise a 31-point offense is difficult, you know. Looking at the stats just on NFL.com, maybe a bit more time of possession in favour of the Cowboys. It broke down as 33 minutes to the Cowboys, 26 to the Redskins. 8 penalties. I'm not particularly fussed about offensive penalties. You know, I think there was a couple of holds. But,
it's mostly in the corner, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was one that brought the Pollard touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't think he scores that if there wasn't a hold, really. But yeah, it sucked to see. But that whole drive was wonderful to see because they got all the way down without Zeke.
And they took up time doing it.
Exactly. But yeah, looking at the stats, it's like Graham said, it's crazy to try and argue against it. I mean, I'm trying to bloody load them up now, and sods all my laptop's been slow, but they had something like, was it 25 or something first downs?
Yeah.
They converted all but I think 2 of their third downs.
1 sack allowed.
Yeah. I mean, that's
you are trying to pinch peanuts out of poo when you're saying to find a hole in the offense there. But I mean, if you want, then we'll move to the defense side. So we'll go with you first, Graham. Yeah. What was a positive for you on the defensive side in this game?
Positive, I think just to keep us in the game in the first kind of half, just while the offense were finding their feet a little bit, you can clearly see that Adrian Peterson's still there for a reason. Yeah. They kind of, he's their bell cow, you know, he gets them out of difficult situations and he can still catch. So swing passes and all that kind of stuff, he's still dangerous. Saw a little bit of, I mean, I'm guilty of it as well, you know, like the lack of turnovers that the Cowboys create, and they don't that's not necessarily a negative. If you're keeping the score down, that's your primary. And they did that. They really, really did. Even the Redskins' last touchdown, that's junk time. You know, game's done. Yeah. You're not going to stress over that. 21 points, you know.
I mean, definitely the score doesn't reflect the game by far. I mean, you know, you say 21 points. A lot of that is scheme. I mean, if you look at it, the Redskins' total offense was only about 255 yards.
Yeah.
So the defense done their job.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I know what you mean in terms of you know, turnovers. We'll get to that. But for you, Rich, what was a defensive positive for you in this game?
I thought there was a lot more pressure. I was quite surprised to see a couple of people saying that they're still quite worried. I'm not necessarily in terms of moving forward. I get why people are. Because they do seem to be starting a bit slower given how they were last year. But I think part of that is just they're being eclipsed a bit, really, by the offense. I mean, the offense has come out absolute guns blazing on 2 occasions now against 2 division rivals, one of which everyone was saying is going to be a bit of a sleeper this year in Washington, at least to a degree. I'm not massively concerned. I mean, it's a slight concern in terms of, I mean, like you said, we're going to get to it, but in terms of the turnovers, it's very close but no cigar. And that's not going to be very long that they're knocking on the door before they start getting stuff. They had a sack last week. They've had another sack tonight. And on that sack, what was brilliant to see is if you go back and watch that play, Tank pretty much wipes out that line by himself, which enables Crawford to get round, which is just insane to see. So, yeah, a lot more pressure. There was a lot of pressure there. Keenum wasn't, I mean, he had a half decent day, but he wasn't, I wouldn't say immensely comfortable, I don't think. No. They seem to be slowly improving, and I'm not massively concerned if they're going to take a little bit of time for them to get into the swing of things, especially not when the offense is guns blazing. If the offense wasn't guns blazing, then yes, I'd be concerned if it was like last year and we're having to rely on them carrying us a bit. But now I'm not worried they can take as much time as they need realistically, because when you look at the next 2 games we've got, it's like, okay, yeah, just play into it. As long as you're up and running by that point onwards, I'm happy.
Okay, I mean, like, do you think perhaps as well, people are talking about, you hear it a lot at the moment, of the pressure. Bear in mind, right, Xavier dropped 2 interceptions in that game. He did, the hard part, getting into position, reading the play. He just drops the ball twice. So, you could effectively say that's 2 interceptions lost with a bit of bad luck. But do you think perhaps that the lack of sacks is the fact that the defense, as well as the offense that we're playing against, both Giants and Redskins, they're changing their game script because obviously they got to go pass heavy in order to try and catch up with us. So obviously that means you need to put more onto your defensive backs than at the front. So do you think a lot of that is the reason behind that?
Maybe, potentially. I mean, I haven't had a chance to go back and watch to see how many people are put in there, how they're scheming it. Quite potentially, I mean, everyone knows what Tank can do. They know what everyone else can do. They know what these linebackers can do in situations when they put on the blitz as well. I'm not massively... Yeah, I don't know. I need to go back and watch. Potentially, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. But also, I mean, both quarterbacks were getting it out fairly quick. It wasn't like they were standing there all day like Dak was with a really clean pocket. Balls were coming out fairly quick, and they were either on target or they weren't. So I don't think these last 2 quarterbacks have been fairly comfortable in the pocket at all. Pressure is definitely there. It's building. It's just a case of waiting for it to get there, really. And people are making tackles. There's certain people who obviously didn't show up very well. Brown obviously didn't. Anthony Brown didn't have a great night, and it showed. When he doesn't tackle well, it shows up because he's such an integral part. But yeah.
I mean, looking at their stats, what you're saying, Mike, is correct, because you've got 12 passes to Adrian Peterson, Wendell Smallwood, Chris Thompson, and Vernon Davis. Now, they're not going to be 20, 25 yards. They're going to be 3-step drop and get rid of the ball. Yeah. So it's very difficult for your pass rush to get there when you know that the ball, once again, it's gone. So if that's their game plan, then fine, but you're not going to stretch a defense playing it like that. That's game management. That's not let's go and win this type stuff. So you can kind of give the defense a little bit of a pass on that. I mean, I'm not going to get, there will be an occasion where the defense does dig out a hole. Maybe not over the next 2 games, judging by the Drew Brees news. But, Teddy Bridgewater is no slouch. He has started before, so... But
I mean, no, if that Rams game is anything to go off, I won't worry about Teddy Bridgewater. But I mean, obviously that's the pre-game show. But going into obviously talking about Tank, because people are saying about his lack of sacks. The one thing you can't deny, right, is his run stopping, which is primarily his biggest trait. But one thing I did notice during that game, although he didn't get the sacks, is look at the form. The biggest thing at defensive end in order to create a pass rush is obviously his bend to curl around. And I mean, Tank is just, you wonder how he's not falling over.
Yeah.
That he's dipping so far down and
plays
bending.
Pretty much horizontally sometimes, isn't he?
It's crazy. But I agree with what you were saying earlier, Rich, that it's just literally it's a matter of time.
I'm willing to put a tenner down that Xavier Woods gets 2 interceptions in this next game against Miami. I really think it's coming because he was close to 1, then he nearly had 2 this game. Like you said, he dropped them. It's so agonizingly close. And once that ball starts going in the season, not just in games, I think that's when it's going to be. The offense has come out guns blazing and they've had bomb passes. They've had touchdowns off of it. They're ready to go. The defense is a little bit behind, but I think that's just more a case of they're playing well, they're playing decent, they're playing good prevent football, and they're keeping the scores down against, obviously against one crap team, but now against a half decent team as well. And you can only play what's put in front of you. But they're building up to it. It's a good progression, arguably, from that week to this week. I mean, the Skins obviously is going to be a step down, but then you said obviously going up to Teddy Bridgewater. It's stepping up, and this defense has shown that they do play up to situations. This whole team does, but especially the defense. I'm not massively concerned. I think next week both sides will have an absolute ball, and realistically, a lot of people, I certainly will, but I think a lot of people will secretly be looking to see firstly, how the defense plays, but also how many points the Cowboys put on the Finns after what the Patriots did yesterday, because that's what everyone is. And I know it's sensationalist, and I know it's the second game, but that's what people are starting to look at now.
Yeah.
Is potentially, could this really potentially be the year, a couple of years after we wanted it before, that you finally get a Pats Cowboys, the biggest grossing Super Bowl that will probably there ever will be. Finally happens.
I know we're kind of touching on the pre-game for this weekend, but if you watched any highlights, there was one in particular. Fitzpatrick hits the guy in the numbers, and he literally juggles it to a Patriots cornerback, and the guy romps down the sideline for a team.
It was just like, But saying that, quickness. Did you? I think it was the third. I think it was the last scoring drive that we had. I think it was a Zeke touchdown. Going down, and we were at about the 30-yard line, and it was an option. Dak and everyone sold everything to the right, and it was literally a second. Everyone snapped, took one step, and he saw everyone moved across, and his head was right, and you could just see he noticed everyone was going, and he just went, and it was literally as quick as that. His head went, and his arm was already going. His eyes were there, and he threw it. And it was just so quick. It was over in the space of a second and a half, 2 seconds maximum from when the ball was snapped. I'd say probably closer to a second than two. I'd love to see the count on that because it was rapid. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, that was quick. Like, you get the ball out quick anyway. It was like, back to go. But that was just rapid. It was as soon as everyone took a step, that ball was gone. And it was the opposite way. And I was like, oh, yes. And that was a sizable gain as well because he had one-on-one on the outside then.
Okay, so 2 things I got for you. I'm going to go back to the offense, and then we'll start running through some of the questions people sent in. The 2 things. First one, Zeke has got, and it's only his second game, got his first 100-yard game of the season, 111 yards and a touchdown. And the second thing I'm going to ask you is about, obviously, an old wide receiver, Mr. Smith, who took a 74-yard game. So he led the wide receivers this week and got that big touchdown. Those 2, what are your opinions on them both?
Go on,
or that the game?
I mean, as read for Zeke Elliott, that's why we paid him what we paid him. 3 down back, totally reliable. You're wondering, did he have a bad game if he didn't reach 100 yards? You really do hold him in that high regard. 23 carries, 4.8 yards per. Yeah. Really does take the sting out of the game. Just even the ugly yards. You sometimes get guys on other teams that you're not too sure about sending them up the middle, but Zeke will lower the shoulder pads and dig in and
get 30 yards.
Receiving back, blocking, outstanding. Joy to watch, and I think we're all delighted that he's around for the next 8 years. And then we'll ship him off to Arizona for his final year.
That's not going to happen.
That's 22 I'm talking about. I'll let Rich touch on Smith, but Zeke, pleasure to watch. Pleasure to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Very quickly on that whole Zeke thing, there is, and I tweeted this out, but there are 2 people after these 2 games that are having dollar signs in their eyes. One is Dak Prescott and his agent, and the other one is anyone that owns a training facility in Cabo. I say Cabo, Texas, and it's definitely not in Texas. But anyone that owns anything down in Cabo to do with fitness, Jesus Christ, they got their dollars, their charges are going to be going up. They got to be after the way Zeke's playing. It's like he goes down to Cabo twice and he comes and he balls out. It's like fucking hell.
Yeah. It's for being a place of fitness, mind already.
Yeah, I know, but it's ridiculous.
Random.
He's come in and is like, he signed like 2-3 days or a couple of days before his first game, and he did half decent in that with a limited snap count. And now I still think they limited him a bit because they took him out for a whole drive and put Pollard in, and he still went and got over 100 yards and a touchdown. It's like, fucking hell. But yeah, Devin, I mean, it's really good. We've had 2 games now with Dak's playing well. All the wide receivers are playing well. Both been spread out, and the 2 receivers are rookies. Well, I'd no. I know Gallup's a second year, but I'd still class him as a rookie generally amongst the other people of that group. That's really good to see. And obviously with Gallup out now for potentially the next 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, which you can, safe to say, not to count chickens before they're hatched, but you can probably survive that. It's even easier now if Devin Smith's going to be showing up. Yeah. And this is without Amari Cooper sort of putting the afterburners on people because he's been worried about. Blake Jarwin was still getting double teamed. People are still scared of him. Randall Cobb. And that's before anyone else, really. And Dak's going and running through people as well. It's very much a loaded roster still, even with that out, with Gallup out potentially for a couple of weeks. It's looking dangerous.
All right, then. So let's break into the mailbag, right? And I'm going to start off with Wayne Westlake's question, right, which leads into what we were just talking about. He's asking, who do you reckon will be our number 1 wide receiver at the end of the season? I think they mean in terms of productions there.
I still think Cooper.
Yeah. I
think when all boils down, he's going to be the number 1 target, and even if he does draw double coverage, I still think it's going to be Amari Cooper. Probably Gallup, and then probably Randall Cobb. Yeah. I think just in terms of snap count, they're going to get their yardage via their snap count. Michael Gallup does look good, but you just wonder, is the consistency going to be there the whole 16?
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
Yes, it will. Well, let's trade him for 2 first-round picks then.
Why would you say that?
No.
I think Cooper, because he does have the bigger skill set. I think he will draw doubles, but concentrate on Cooper too much, and Michael Gallup will burn you. So that you might even see an equal spread across the backfield. They might play a lot more zone type stuff instead of locking onto Cooper because especially Dak, the way he's playing just now, he will find the gaps. And if you can spread yourself out across the entire field, that does limit your gaps, but it opens up Cooper.
All right. What about you then, Rich? Who do you reckon will be our number 1 at the end of the season?
In terms of who's treated as number 1, WR1 on the roster, or in terms of purely of production of yards and touchdowns?
So he didn't specify, but we're going to go with production. Who do you think finishes as the most productive wide receiver?
I think Gallup.
Yeah?
Purely because... In
terms of yards?
Yeah, in terms of yards and touchdowns, I think... Well, maybe not touchdowns, but in terms of yards, purely because, as Graham said, Amari Cooper is the more known quantity. I think people will, if they had to choose and pick their poison, they would rather take a chance on Gallup than on Amari Cooper, even potentially later in the season. Like you said, if you cover him, he's going to burn you, and likewise. And then you've also got the likes of Jason Witten and Blake Jarwin and Randall Cobb underneath as well. So, but between those 2, in a vacuum, I think, Gallup, purely because people would rather focus, and if they're going to double anyone, I think they'd rather double Cooper because he's just proven more than Gallup.
Yeah. All right, then. So this week's Membership Monday, I don't know what you want to call him, member.
Star.
Is it Star? Yeah. All right, then.
Star.
Owen Landon sent in a question for us. He said, is it too early to get excited about this offense, or is it more about the soft defense that we're facing?
Nah, it's not too early. I mean, reserve any kind of judgments for after game 4. That's just standard.
Yeah.
Fuck me, get excited about your team. When your offense has come out and has just blown away 2 division rivals, and not only you're 2-0, you're 2-0 in the division, that's something to get excited about. Don't get me wrong, don't start yelling from the rooftops that we're going to the fucking Super Bowl and we're going to beat New England and we're going to get number 6. That's a little bit retarded. But you can get excited. That's okay. You're allowed to be excited. Be cautious, be a little bit cautious with it if you want, but be optimistic. Your team's 2-0. There's not many teams out there, I don't think, at the minute that are 2-0, and I don't think many, if any of them, are 2-0 in their divisions. So that's a hell of a start. That is a really good fucking start. Yeah, be excited. It's okay. Just temper it a bit with reality. That's, don't be a muppet. Basically, don't be a, don't be
He's
over
on
the
the
top.
attack.
Yeah, just don't be a muppet with it. Don't be a clown. Just don't be, oh my God, we're going to the Super Bowl, but also don't be they're really vanilla, crappy defenses. Because I mean, aside from, well, I know I called out Norman at the start because he's a clown, but that defense is all right. They're an all right team. They are what they are. They're all right, but they went up against, and I know it was week 1, but they went up against the Eagles and went out and blitzed them at the start, and they did exactly the same to us. And another thing, people need to stop worrying about how this team starts a game. If the other team scores first, it's okay. You have a whole rest of the game to go, and our quarterback is still leading the league in game-winning drives. It's okay if we don't score first, especially when they're going out and scoring five or so bloody touchdowns, and they're only scoring 2 or 3. When does it matter when it happens?
I tell you a good fact I read today, that since Dak come into the league, there's only 2 quarterbacks that lead him in touchdowns of 50 yards or more. He's actually ranked 3rd.
Fair play. In fact, I believe also going on for the winning drives, the next 2 quarterbacks that are actually tied for 2nd place for game-winning drives are Drew Brees, who's now out for however many weeks, and Matthew Stafford, who isn't in the league anymore.
Matt Stafford?
Yeah, or am I getting confused? No, I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely am. Yeah, I'm thinking Andrew Luck. I'm just being a retard. I'm being a clown now.
Bloopers roll!
Yeah.
You mind?
Anyway.
Right, okay, I got one for you, right, Greg? Stephen Mountford sent a question in, right? Can we all agree Dak should have managed to shut down the doubters by now?
I don't understand where the hatred comes from our own fans.
The Cowboys.
He's
Cowboys. He's always going to be
of America's team, but that shouldn't open you up to your own fans. It just seems to be, he's almost getting more heat than Tony Romo did, and he's
a lot.
They do say you can manipulate stats, right? I get that. You can stretch them out and dilute things and all that kind of stuff. But in his short career, there's so much. He's done X, Y, Z. Just go through his stats. His touchdown to interception ratio is incredible. Fair enough, he might not be an absolute stud every game, but neither's Tom Brady. Tom Brady sometimes manages games and the Patriots run the ball to death, and Tom Brady doesn't get the same. What happened, Tom? Only 1 touchdown this week. It doesn't seem to happen because he's wearing Super Bowl rings. So until I think the only way that heat is going to cool down on Dak Prescott is if we get to the Super Bowl. That's the only time it's ever going to cool down, because people need definites. How many rings does he have? How many playoff wins does he have? And until he puts a ring on, he's going to have his haters. And it's really, really unfortunate, because Romo's one of our best quarterbacks ever, and he doesn't have a ring. And I'd hate for Dak Prescott to turn it the exact same way.
Yeah. All right, then. And then I'll ask you both on this one. We did touch it briefly as we were talking. Lloyd Poland sent a question in, my brother. There we go. He said, questions about the defense. He said they're doing enough to win, right? But they're not getting pressures or takeaways. The question he poses, though, is this going to be a problem going into the future, into the season? No. Or do you think it'll level itself out?
I think it'll level itself out. I will gladly bet either of you right now. Like I said earlier, I'll bet a tenner that Xavier Woods gets 2 interceptions in this next game. I feel as confident about that as I did that going into the Giants game, that it was going to be a bit of a blowout and it was going to be mostly throwing the ball. It is knocking on the door, screaming it is going to happen. And if he only gets one and then drops another one, that's unfortunate. I lose a tenner, but I'll still be happy. They're in positions. They're in positions to make plays, and there were a lot of times. There were a couple of times last night that they were close to getting sacks, and they were late tackles. There was another one from I tweeted it out from Tank. Purely, he just threw the ball at the last minute to Case Keenum, and I don't care what anyone says. I count that as a sack personally, because he was there and it was wrapped up and it was just the last second. If his arm was higher, he's knocking his arm and that ball's potentially out. I'm not worried. They're getting pressure. They're playing prevent. They're keeping the score down. Really, that's all you need when your offense is going out and playing mad. Yes, it'd be nice to get a couple of turnovers, get some extra possessions. That's what makes them elite, and they are meant to be elite or stepping up into that. But I think that will come with time. We're only 2 games in.
Yeah. And what do you think? Do you think, Greg?
I think it's going to get to the stage where the D will dig us out a hole. You know, we're not going to be able to put 30 points up per game, and we're going to have to win. We're going to have to win a game eventually. You know, 12-7, something along those lines. But I'll give you an example. Like, if you were to look at Richard Sherman's stats, Richard Sherman doesn't have a great deal of interceptions and so on per rotation because teams don't go near him. You know, and it works. You know, they're not creating turnovers, but we're not up against it in games either. If we can keep teams to 4 and out, two first downs, that is all you can really ask for. You know, they will come good sooner or later. It's too long a season for us to rely on our offense all the time, and that's going to be a good thing because, like I said last week, balanced teams do well. So in the week where, you know, Dak maybe throws an interception and gets flustered, you know, that one occasion where he gets flustered, you could quite easily see the D pick up and run with it. You know, like the occasions escape me. I can't think of anything in particular, but think of last year's Super Bowl. You know, that an absolute slog. You didn't see the defensive game that it was going to be. I mean, I predicted at least 50-odd points.
Yeah.
You know, the D will come out sooner or later, and they're going to have to. You know, it's too long a season, and they will. You know, they're not. See, so long as we keep winning, who cares really? I mean, so long as they keep the score down, that's all I'm really concerned about. The turnovers, we'll see turnovers next week. Believe me.
Oh yeah. I mean, turnovers and sacks, I think, are definitely coming next week.
I'm not worried. I'm not worried until we get to pretty much November. Maybe the end of October when we come against Philly. But really, as long as we're good by November, that's fine. Because looking at things, we've got the Vikings, Lions, maybe Pats. I reckon Jordan Lewis is going to pick off Tom Brady on the 24th of November.
Ooh.
I reckon
a pick or a pick six?
I reckon pick. I reckon someone will get a pick six. I think Jordan Lewis picks him off, and I reckon potentially forced fumble recovery maybe instead of a pick six is going to happen. I genuinely think this defense gets its shit in line, ready for November, ready to take on Tom Brady, and that is going to be one hell of a fucking game.
Well,
that is some receiver core. That's
I know, yeah.
A big taste.
I'm not saying about bets because I lost all my sports bets this week. The accumulators, the lot, but never mind.
The mega super accumulator.
No, well, you gotta be in it to win it, ain't you?
True that.
But I mean, apart from that, guys, that's the post-game show for this week, all wrapped up, done and dusted. I think we covered enough of it. Obviously, everyone, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the group, and the page. Subscribe to our podcast, YouTube. It's all going on here at the moment. But Lauren will be with a team later on in the week, I think Thursday, and they'll do a pre-game show. But for now, thank you very much, guys.
Suck it, Josh Norman.
Thank you.